From the moment I was 10 on, I was feeling that I was training myself to become a writer. I never have to worry if I go to some place, do I have my phone, am I showing too much money?
Yeah.
Those things never crossed my mind. What did I miss when I was there? Well, chocolate milk, because we have
Ukal,
of course.
yeah. On this week's episode, I'm joined by Ana Barbara Pedrosa. Ana Barbara is a linguist. She's an author of 3 books, and she just happens to be one of the young advisors to Marcelo, the president of Portugal. We discuss, amongst other things, some of the books that she's written, some of the differences between Portuguese literature and Brazilian literature, some of the differences between Brazilian Portuguese and European Portuguese. Ana Barbara gives us some tips on how people can learn Portuguese a little bit more. She talks about what she loves and appreciates about Portugal, the weather, the food, the bread, and why everybody should try Portuguese chocolate milk. For those of you listening, head over to our YouTube channel to watch some of this episode. And for those of you watching, click down below and subscribe. And for the full podcast episode, go to Google, Stitcher, Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts. And now, over to my conversation with Ana Barbara. Welcome back, or welcome to another episode of Portugal, The Simple Life. And I'm delighted to be joined here by Ana Barbara Pedrosa. Ana Barbara, hello, and thank you for being on the podcast. How are you?
Hello, thank you for inviting me.
Ana Barbara, why don't you start off telling us a little bit about you?
So I am 33 years old. I was born in Vizela. It's a town in Minho, which is in the north of Portugal.
Okay.
I lived there until I was 18 years old. Then I went to the University of Minho. It's in Braga, where I studied applied languages. Then I came to Lisbon, where I started studying literature. I went to Brazil, where I took a PhD. I came back, I worked for a newspaper, I started publishing my books. Currently, I'm a freelancer. I mostly write. I just published my 3rd novel. And I'm from a small town, so the daily life there...
Did you say it was called Vizela?
Vizela, yes.
Okay, I haven't been there. Tell people about your village.
It's the best place in the world, of course. It's very beautiful. It's a valley. We have lots of nature, a really big park, a river. It's a small place. Most people know each other, so it has that relaxed feeling. You go out, you meet people, so you feel you have people all around you.
And Ana Barbara, tell us a little bit about your books. Maybe you can go in the chronological order of the books that you've written.
Okay. So my first book is called Lisboa Chão Sagrado, which should be something like Lisbon Sacred Floor. I have published it 4 years ago. Most of the plot happens in Lisbon, but I also play with the movement between Portugal and Brazil. I wrote it after I came back from Brazil. So I also use this storyteller that mixes Brazilian Portuguese and European Portuguese. So there I have 5 characters. Lisbon is kind of a character in this book. And 2 years after I published this book, I published another one called Palavra do Senhor. In this book, I tell some of the parts of the Bible, and they are told by God, that God of the Bible. So it was mostly a rewriting with a different perspective, which is a funny exercise to do as well. Then this last one was published a few months ago, called Amor Estragado, which should be something like Tainted Love. And there I have 2 storytellers. These 2 storytellers are 2 brothers. And the first phrase is, I killed my wife. And then it is something like, I didn't do it on purpose, but it is one of those things that once they are done, you can't really repair them. So, and in this book, I, of course, tell a story of violence, but I liked mainly to explore how this family was completely destroyed. Not this family of a couple, a husband and a wife. I like to show how the siblings went apart. The mother and the son who created all these acts of violence got apart as well. because for me that was the main idea of the book, and also the place where we had the moral conflict. Because if we think about domestic violence, there is not much to say about it as a literary issue, because it's a black and white thing.
Yeah.
And I like to play with the other subtle things.
What do you think influenced you to start writing at such a young age? To that curiosity to write and that creativity. What do you think where do you think that came from?
Yeah, I think it's very difficult to find a moment,
Mhm.
but I remember that I enjoyed books since I was really, really young, because my mother would tell me stories. She would read the books, and I would never get tired of it. I could have her reading books dozens of times, and then I learned how to read, which was really good for her, because finally she would have some time for herself. I wouldn't bug her all the time asking her to read books for me. Then I started reading. I started finding things. Books always felt like a window to the rest of the world. And then I don't remember exactly when I started writing, but maybe when I was 9 or something. From the moment I was 10 on, I remember that I was feeling that I was training myself to become a writer. I would create exercises, I would do the exercises, I would create a plan of things to achieve, to do. I kind of felt like an athlete, but for literature.
Wow.
I wouldn't really work on my muscles, but I knew that writing was a kind of muscle that I needed to work on.
I mean, for people that are listening, who are looking to learn the language, to understand it a bit better, to kind of understand some basics as a linguist, what would you recommend to people in terms of some things that they should know about the language, the Portuguese, the European Portuguese? We're now talking Portuguese.
I always think that songs help a lot,
Mm.
because you can listen to how the words are pronounced, and it's easier to memorize it because you can sing along and stuff like that. And then if there is some comfort already, I think that something that works well too is to read a kind of simple book that you already know very well. And of course, listening to the language always helps a lot, because if you are just reading, you are not getting how it sounds. So you may be able to understand when you read, and you may be able to write in the language, but then talking to a real person will be a completely different thing.
How many languages do you speak, Ana
Uh,
Barbara?
I don't speak them I mean, with all of them with the same ease, but it should be Portuguese, English, Spanish, French, Italian, Norwegian a little bit.
Okay. What do you think it is about the culture with Portugal and languages that we're open to trying different languages and learning different languages with so much ease?
I know that in other countries, for example, in Spain, it's not common for people to listen to the other languages. For example, if they are watching a movie,
Mm-hmm.
most of the times they have the simultaneous translation, so they don't listen to the foreign
Mm-hmm.
language. So I think that the way that the language learning is seen in the country as a strategy
Mm-hmm.
also helps. For example, in Spain, it was forbidden during the dictatorship to work with the other languages. Here, I mean, it's really uncommon to have that. I mean, when we are watching a movie, we listen to the original language. The exceptions would be cartoons for little kids.
Yeah, animated films or things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that part works a lot, because we are always contacting with other languages.
About Brazil, Ana Barbara. I mean, you sound like you really enjoyed your time there, but what were some of the things that you appreciated about Portugal while you were there?
What did I miss when I was there? Well, chocolate milk, because we have
Ukal,
ukal, of course.
ukal, yeah.
We have the best
Or do you have it cold or hot? Do you go with cold or hot?
cold, of
Cold.
course.
You don't. You never have it hot. Ukalkend?
I tried once, but come on.
Okay.
And other things. It was mostly food, normal things that I have in Portugal, like our breads, our cheeses, I couldn't find there. And then, as far as culture is concerned, it was very difficult to deal with some things. Like you go to some official place and you are expecting the information you get there is official, but they're not really, which is weird. Then the weather is very, very complicated there because it's very warm and humid. So I miss this in Portugal as well. It's mostly that. I'm a simple person. I like to have my good food with me and not to be sweaty all the time.
That's fair. I mean, that's not too much to ask. I don't think. I don't think that's too much to ask for. Actually, that's pretty. I think that's very fair. What makes you proud of your country? What makes you proud of Portugal?
Ronaldo, of course, Ronaldo
Ronaldo.
is the first answer.
You need to watch rugby. At the moment, right now, is Portugal is playing in the Rugby World Cup. In the Rugby World Cup, it's only the second time they've ever played in a Rugby World Cup, besides Ronaldo.
Besides Ronaldo, well, I mean, the idea of pride is weird to me, but there are things I like in Portugal. I think we have a very progressive law in terms of human rights. I think most of the problems people have in other countries are solved here. We don't have a lot of violence. For example, I never have to worry if I go to some place where I have my phone, am I showing too much money?
Yeah.
Those things never cross my mind. I remember when I was in Brazil, people were
You
always
have to think about those things. Yeah.
don't leave your laptop in the middle of the street while you go away for 5 minutes. I'm like, oh, why not? Or I used to be in the library, and not to lose my spot while I was grabbing lunch, I would just leave my MacBook on the table. And people would run and say, "Hey, come on! Did you forget your laptop? What is wrong with you?" Oh, just not to lose my place. People like, "Are you retarded or something?" So I think we have those very good things.
Nice.
We have public health, which is, I mean, I don't even think about it because it's common here. But for people who don't have that, I think that's a major issue.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, that the public health system has its problems, but the thing is, if you are completely broken, you can go to the hospital and you'll get treatment. We have public school as well with good quality.
And Barbara, a question that we ask all of our guests: Portugal, the simple life. Why?
Well, we have an okay weather and great food, which helps a lot. We don't have to battle with the environment all the time. And I mean, of course, that in our daily lives, we don't really think about it. But when we have to compare it with people who have to fight the environment every day, we get to see that we really have it in a simple way here.
And good chocolate milk.
And good chocolate milk, of course.
Yeah. Thank you so much for being on the podcast. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for inviting me.
And I don't know if you know this part. This is the part where you say it's a wrap. I'm going to let you call it.
Yeah. I know that part.
It's a wrap?
It's a wrap.
So thank you once again to our guest, and thank you to all of you for listening. Please subscribe, share with your friends, give us a thumbs up, and please leave a comment or a review. We always love to hear from you. Don't forget, Portugal The Simple Life also has a magazine, so download it. It's for free. We'll be back next week with a brand new episode, and as we say in Portugal, Sejas bem-vindo. Welcome to The Simple Life.